All right. Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year 2025. This is the West Hartford Public Safety Committee meeting. This committee meeting will be available for live viewing on WHCI YouTube channel. This is a virtual meeting, and today's date is Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. I will call the meeting to order and recognize everyone around the virtual screen. We have Counselor Alberto Cortez, Counselor Tiffany McGinnis. I believe I saw Counselor Walters. We have Town Manager Rick Ledwith. We have Chief Riddick, Chief Priest, DC Silver, Emergency Management, Bob McHugh. And I'm sorry, Chief Priest, the fantastic young lady behind you.
That's Fire Chief Melinda McEwen, who's in charge.
Thank you. And I believe I saw, is that Delilah? Let's see, AC Rickabon and AC Tara. Did I get everyone? And I believe Mayor Cantor will be joining us by phone, and also Deputy Mayor Ben Winograd is also on. All right, I believe I covered everybody. If I didn't, just shout out and let me know. And of course, thank you to you, Jerida. Before I start with the business items, I do want to take the chair's point of privilege this morning. And I believe we were talking about these ferocious winds and a tree that fell on a woman's car. But as I turned on the news this morning and just saw what's happening out in California with the wildfire and how quickly airs travel and can really cause significant damage, and this is public safety, of course, I'm thinking of all of the responders, first responders, especially our firefighters. And I believe we've mentioned on this call many of times, while everyone is running away, our firefighters and first responders are running towards. So I just want us to think, even though we're experiencing these cold conditions here in Connecticut, think of those brothers and sisters out in California fighting these fires and trying to get people to safety in a matter of minutes, because that's how quickly this fire is spreading and the power of Mother Nature. I also wanted to recognize and acknowledge the tragic event that we all have learned about that occurred on New Year's early morning in on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. And again, public safety. So when I hear these things now, I mean, I really identify with what they're doing in terms of all of the first responders, our public safety leaders and officials and elected officials, and how everyone is coming together to address these tragic events in a matter of quickness. So I just wanted to acknowledge the mayor of New Orleans, and of course, I believe Mayor Cantrell, all the public safety leaders, the personnel, the first responders, all who were affected by this act of terrorism, especially as they began to celebrate ringing in the new year, as well as everybody else around the world. They had no idea that terror was just a few minutes away and how it was going to affect them, and how so many people just lost their lives senselessly and were injured because they wanted to go out and have a good time. And it just reminds us that we're just living in different times. Our world is very different than how many of us grew up. And not only many of us are thinking of ourselves, but we're thinking of family members, relatives, people who we may know that live in New Orleans, or who visited New Orleans, or who could have been there and could have very well been a victim as well. So I just want to sort of pause and just think of those victims and folks who were injured. Just indulge me with a few minutes. Thank you. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those folks. So the first item for business items is approval of the minutes. So may I have a motion to approve the minutes with the necessary corrections for December, I believe that was the 4th.
So
Yes.
moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, and all in favor? Aye. Motion's
Aye.
passed, and let the minutes reflect that the minutes were approved. All right, so the next item is communications, and I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Town Manager, if we have any communications to report this morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Great to see everyone. Just wanted to take a moment to follow up on really some of Madam Chair's comments and as it relates to some events that have taken place here in a good way, but just acknowledging our police, fire, and public works staff for their efforts, where we had two very public special events over the holidays. We had the holiday stroll through the center in Blueback Square in early December, and then the Fire and Ice Hanukkah celebration on December 29th right here at the Town Hall. And from my perspective, I was able to see our public safety efforts from behind the scenes, and I spent some time in the mobile command vehicle, which I would, if our public safety committee has not seen or been inside that vehicle, we should definitely arrange some time for a tour. But there was absolutely just an incredibly strong public safety presence. You could feel it, you could see it, we were everywhere. But we did so in a very professional way that I think inspired trust and confidence in the thousands of residents and visitors who joined us at both events. Walking through, especially during the holiday stroll where we were covering a lot of ground, walking the streets with our fire chief and assistant chief and AC Riccabon and Captain Judah, just seeing everybody walking up to our public safety officials and just, really just appreciating their presence, which was really great to see. And at one point, AC Riccabon and Captain Judah, we were walking along LaSalle, and these two teenage boys, they were 12 or 13 years old, walked up to AC Riccabon and Captain Judah and genuinely thanked them for being there and keeping them safe. And that really it made my night to see that. Gave me a real sense of pride in what our public safety officers, police officers, and firefighters do every day to keep our community safe. So from that perspective, really just kind of a really great holiday season from that perspective. So I appreciate you giving me the time to share that, and I will turn that back to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. And now on to staff reports. And I believe fire is up first, so I'm going to turn it over to Chief Priest and his team.
Morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Can't believe it's 2025. 25 years ago was Y2K. We were all worried about whether or not the internet was going to crash. So 25 years later, I think, holy cow, here we are. But I appreciate your comments on all of the events, whether or not it's wildfires or, terrorist attacks, civilian domestic terrorist attacks. Further, the amount of planning that goes into those is inordinate too. I know the chief can speak more to that if he wanted to, but there's a lot of things that go into preparing for special events. We know some of the recommendations that we make aren't popular, but it is all in the interest of public safety as well. And we look forward to continuing to have conversations about how to keep our community safe and have the right staff there available to respond, but also to prevent emergencies. We closed out the year with 10,162 calls. So that was a pretty jump for us in terms of statistically compared to last year, which we were at 9,845 calls. So we're getting busy out there, and but we look forward to another 2025 and appreciate the support of the Public Safety Committee. We've had some personnel activity, pretty significant over the last month or so. Apparatus Operator Foster's retired, Deputy Chief Albert and Munsell. And then when we have that type of movement in the north end of our organization, we then have promotions that follow. So we're now congratulating Deputy Chief Duffy, Deputy Chief Pacheco, Captain Coker, Captain Bohan to new leadership ranks, as well as Fire Inspector Adam Pillsbury has joined us as well. So very happy about that. We'll have some more promotions coming. We'll put that together into a promotional ceremony when all of the pieces are moved. I give just a little bit of a nod to the folks in the fire department because when we have that type of senior leadership changes, it does create a lot of movement throughout the organization. There's a lot of transfers. So around the holidays, I at least tip my hat to them, understanding that their movement is impactful to them and their families, but appreciate it. As far as our calls of the month, certainly I have a lot in our written report as well as our statistics. We had a little bit of a media play about a deer that was rescued off of the ice up at the reservoir, a little bit of an interesting call for us. We have to be very thoughtful about when it is that we're doing that, but we use it combination of, for humanitarian reasons, but also for training, making sure that we're putting our training to use in a good environment, making sure that we're managing all of our risks to do that. But we felt that that was the right thing to do. And it was nice to see the deer run away. In terms of the other notable projects or activity, the town manager has clearly covered the special events that have happened at this time of year. Like many of you, we're doing budget. We've submitted that. I look forward to discussing some of our upcoming needs this year, especially around staffing as we get a little bit closer to the budget season. Very pleased. I believe tomorrow, Assistant Chief Silver and our mechanic are going to go out and pick up our new reserve apparatus that the council approved last year. We're very appreciative for that. That's a really welcome addition to our fleet. As a nod back to Councilor Cortez's inquiry of me last about our training tower, I appreciated that. It's been a while since I've reported, but our old tower has been demolished. We're in the process of working with our facilities and public works down in the area to come up with site plans and get a new training tower built as soon as possible. Obviously, we're in the middle of winter, but we're hoping that that will start pretty soon into the spring. Also pleased that we've seen some movement lately, especially with facilities. There's an architect and a project manager have been hired. We're moving through and making some renovations to stations, and I know our public safety committee has toured them before. I'm looking forward to seeing how that rolls out over the next year. As far as at the state level, I was happy to see some of the legislative priorities are about recruiting and retention of police and fire. I look forward to participating in that, and really appreciated the support of the town manager and the mayor too, as we kind of look at staffing issues and we look at the fire service needs at the legislative level, and I'm pleased to be involved at that. And then lastly, I try to call somebody out in every meeting for good reason. And today that gets to be Assistant Chief Silver because I was able to sneak away on vacation and I didn't look back, and he did a great job. And I just wanted to say thank you. Anytime you get somebody new into the organization, you hope they're going to work out, and Jay is working out really well. And I just wanted to extend my appreciation to you, Chief, as well as to everybody who's out in firehouses as well. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Priest. That was very thorough and very interesting. Anybody have any questions or comments? No questions or comments. So I just have a quick one. As you were talking about the rescue and also seeing that on the news, in terms of training, and this is the deer, is there anything different in the training provided in terms of rescuing a human from, I guess, water like the deer was in terms of an animal, in this case, a deer? Anything different that one may anticipate in the training procedures?
So this is where I guess it's kind of a two-part question. So the first is I don't think we intentionally go out of our way to learn how to rescue animals from ice. But we have a great partnership with the police department. Our animal control officers were out there. We also carry some experience, in terms of understanding, the animals have like sharp hooves around our suits, and we discuss it as a team. When dealing with an animal, we take things a little bit slower. We want, it's not a human in there. We want to manage our risk and be very, very thoughtful about how we do that. We discuss things about it. We talk to the animal control officers. And Chief, did I catch everything? Okay, so the answer is not really, but we have great partnerships that help us figure out how best to approach a situation like that.
Thank you. That's interesting to learn. Just was something I was thinking about. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, we can move to the police department update, and I'll turn it over to you, Chief Riddick.
Hey, good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year to you all. I do want to acknowledge and thank you, Madam Chair, for talking about New Orleans, California, and all the other things. And as we go into a new year, these are the times that you reflect and give thanks. You're not thankful that someone else is going through a tragedy, but you are thankful that it's not you. And I think each one of us, especially those of us who are post 50, and we continue to look forward, and we actually do understand, appreciate how precious each additional day of life is for yourself and for your families. So thank you for that. And speaking of New Orleans, and I'm going to go off topic for 2 seconds, but only because you mentioned it, and I wasn't going to do this, but I guess I will now. I think it's easy to criticize police in those situations in law enforcement about what should have been done, what could have been done. And I think an after action is legitimate. Looking at things, where you can do things better. PD and fire always do that post incident. But sometimes you have to put yourself in that situation, understand what, and I'm not excusing anybody. So I want to make sure I'm clear on that. But I think perspective is important. They did have 300, just think about that, 300 officers on the ground just for that event. And by way of comparison, West Hartford has a total of 132 officers, period. So this just lets you know that the gravity and and the enormity of trying to staff those assignments, the pre-planning that's involved with that, the collaboration with other municipalities and other PDs, federal, state, and it's a lot. Now, when someone is intentional, it's difficult to stop. You can mitigate, which I think they did. And what you saw was, there was a cruiser there. The assailant went around and on a sidewalk. He was determined to do what he did. And unfortunately, lives were lost. But by the grace of God and by training and everything else, more lives were not lost. There was IEDs that were ready and improvised explosive devices that were there that he was trying to detonate. He had lawn guns inside the vehicle. He was ready to take out hundreds of people. And by the actions of those police officers, if you watch the videos when things are coming out, they are all running down the street to stop the threat, and they did. So kudos to that. I'm sure there's some improvements that will be done. The ballards that were scheduled to be put up and for whatever reason didn't. I mean, those were things that happen for budgetary reasons or other. Who knows what the reasons are with that? But at the end of the day, the cops were brave, and they put the public's safety above their own. So I commend them for that. And thank you, Madam Chair, for those few moments. Also, I also want to commend the town of West Hartford. I was hired here in May of 2018, and for the public that is listening here, I can't speak about much that happened prior to that, but I can honestly say, when it comes to us staffing these events, the level that we staff them with, the preparation, there's never been interference from town hall, whether it be the mayor, the town manager, or town council. They allow us to do what we do. Now we do it right. I think we don't overstaff, and we're not getting greedy for money. But our goal is public safety, and working with our partners from the FD and learning from them how they pre-plan and everything else. We provide this the opportunity to bring safe events to the town of West Hartford. We have to realize we have 65,000 people here. But we're like a mini city. When I say that, we're a destination place. We have a lot of events that happen in West Hartford with other towns our size don't. And I would even argue even some of the largest cities in the state don't have the number of events that we have, but we do it, and we make it happen because we are inclusive. So I apologize. I'm a little long-winded, but I just felt it was appropriate as we started that, and I wanted to say thank you all for that because it does make our jobs on PD and fire that much easier. We don't have to worry about being criticized for staffing and what and how we provide safety at these events. So thank you for that. That being said, we do have our year-end stats. First, our calls for service for 2024. We ended up with 59,976 calls for service. Last year, we had 56,786. So there's an increase there. Our year-end stats. So our Part 1 crimes and our Part 1 crimes are more serious crimes, and I will go line by line for that. We ended up with a 9.3% decrease. There were some spikes in between there. So, to the grace of God, we had no murders, thankfully. Sexual assaults were down 37%. Robberies were up 55%. Aggravated assault was down 25%. Burglaries were up 11%. What we consider all other larceny, it's 38% increase. And by that, that's like a larceny if someone steals something out of someone's yard, maybe a pickpocket, something along those lines. Theft from vehicle was down 15%. Theft from building was down 51%. Auto theft, and we know that's been a huge problem over the years, down 16.8%. So at the end of the day, again, our total Part 1 crimes were down 9.3%. And I want to credit all of our hardworking officers, our detectives, our community support unit, and all parts of the records, communications, everybody plays a part in that. So well done by them, very, very well done. At the end of the year, we ended up with 7,696 motor vehicle stops, and that is up from last year, 7,365, approximately about a 4% increase. I think we all appreciate and understand we had some significant increases over the last couple of years, upwards of 50%, but at some point we're going to plateau out. So I think we're getting close to that plateau, but we still are being very strategic where we do our motor vehicle stops. And again, in an effort to create and maintain public safety. I have submitted our written report, which it's quite extensive. And quite frankly, if you had a chance to look at it, that is the actually abridged version of a lot of the work that was done here. I am going to highlight just a couple of incidents you can take at your leisure to look at the rest. The Auto Theft Task Force, which we have officers assigned to that, the Greater Hartford Auto Theft Task Force. We had what we call a file 1 to stolen motor vehicle that was wanted in connection with a shooting that occurred in Hartford. We were to assist with that. The individual was arrested and stopped, and a loaded rifle was found inside the vehicle, and 2 people were arrested. If you recall, and there was a news release, and AC Terra did a good job at the news conference speaking to the media. We had a shots fired incident that occurred on December 18th. It started from a verbal dispute between 2 women, which led to 2 gentlemen getting involved and firing handguns at each other. One individual was struck, fortunately, non-life-threatening injuries. A lot of good work done by patrol in the beginning. It's very difficult when you have these scenes to manage them, and you want to keep people in place, but at the same time, not understanding where the shooter is, maintaining that level of safety and security, but you want to interview people. They did a good job with that, and then our detectives did some old-fashioned legwork, good interviews and grabbing evidence and cameras and so on and so forth. So we're able to make 2 arrests, and there are the individuals who were firing at each other. Mr. Richard Aponte, he was charged with illegal discharge of a firearm, legal possession of a high-capacity magazine, carrying a pistol without a permit, assault 2nd degree with a firearm, and interfering with police. And he was held on a $750,000 bond. And Deshaun Jones was charged with reckless endangerment 1st, assault 2nd with a firearm, an illegal discharge of a firearm, and he also was held on a $750,000 surety bond. So there's a couple other things we have going on here, but again, inside the report, I do not want to have my priest hat on today, so I will close my report. And I also want to commend Deputy Chief Silver for doing a bang up job and being very brief and succinct in his communications with the PD. Thank you. Love you, Greg.
Thank you, Chief Riddick. Do we have any questions or comments for Chief Riddick? Councilor Cortez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, I just want to, listening to those stats, I've been on the council 3 years, and, one of the big things was vehicle theft, and just seeing those numbers go down. I just want to say, kudos to all the hard work that you guys continue to do. It shows. And again, that was a huge thing 3 years ago, and just to see that go down, thank you. With everything else, also, it's just we're trending the right directions, and there's stuff that's beyond our control, but you guys do an amazing job, and I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you for that. And if I can continue, I appreciate that. And it is a lot of hard work by our officers and our specialized divisions. There was grant funding that was utilized for some of these task force that went away, which, we decided as West Hartford to continue to participate in these task force. And it does cost money, but I think we're seeing the tangible results. And this is why we decided to make those decisions. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Thank you, Councilor Cortez, and thank you, Chief. Councilor McGinnis, any questions or comments?
No questions. Just thank you guys for everything you do. And Rick, did you say that the person wasn't? They went to the accident yesterday with the tree. They went to the hospital, but they didn't have any serious injuries.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councilor McGinnis's question. So I'd ask the chief if he knows. I know the person was transported to the hospital, but from there, I'm not exactly sure whether they had serious injuries or not.
Yeah, I don't have any further updates. I do know as of yesterday it was non-life-threatening injuries, but I do not have any updates as far as this morning, and Chief Priest is co-signing on that. So I think that's still the case. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Through you, Madam Chair, was it just one person in the vehicle?
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
I don't know if Chief Riccobon or Chief Tara might have that. I do not have that answer.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Councilor McGinnis. And I would echo what both of them have said as well. I'm not receiving any calls from residents complaining about car theft or burglary. So I would also echo the great work that you and your team are doing, and also would like to believe that people are also being a little more conscientious in terms of locking their car and making sure that they have their key fob, and just being, a little more responsible and aware of things around them. And that's also great work to the PD and everything that you all are doing, as well as Chief Priest and fire and fire safety. I do have a question though for you, Chief Riddick, looking at the report, and you touched upon it with your verbal report. If you could just explain to me or enlighten me the file 1 and the file 5, and I'm sure that that means something, but could you let me know?
Yeah, sure.
Why?
And I apologize because when we were drafting this, I was supposed to put a definition of that. A file 1 is just a stolen motor vehicle, and that's just a code that's used in the computer system. And a file 5 is a warrant. So if we say a file 5, they mean it's a warrant. So normally it would be file 1, and then we would say stolen motor vehicle next to it, and then it'll say file 5, and then next to it would the narrative would read warrant.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation as well. And then just another quick comment, and I don't expect you to divulge any information that would hinder any investigation or what you all do as PD. But in terms of, especially around the holiday time where you see vehicles or motorists driving recklessly, out of control, not adhering to the traffic laws, and others may think that, so for instance, if people are running the red light or they're not stopping or running the stop sign, and they may see a police vehicle and they don't see the police officer um, going after that person, but they see the vehicle. Can you just talk about that? Because I know, I want to say last month in some strategies, especially around the holiday time, I did also in New Britain, where you may have a car there, no one may be in the car, but the car is present. Can you just speak to that a bit?
Wow, you're really calling us out.
I
So
don't want you to give us information, just generic.
I there is times that there may be a vehicle there, and maybe not an officer as a deterrent. That is that occurs sometimes. But I will also acknowledge there may be times where there's an officer in a vehicle, and there's a motor vehicle violation that occurs, and the officer may have seen it, doesn't take any action. I cannot sit here and tell you that every single time that there's a violation that occurs in front of a police officer, that they pull the car over. So that's a possibility. And thirdly, sometimes, although a citizen may have seen it and they might see a violation and believe the officer saw it, sometimes they just didn't see it. And I think we all have been driving and or even seen something on television would seem quite obvious, and they're like, "No, I didn't even see it," and you miss it. So that those are things that do occur regarding that. While I do have the floor for 2 more seconds, you know, with the state statute and policy regarding when we can pursue for serious incidents, it's the misnomer is it's felonies. No, it has to be something serious, a serious crime, a serious incident. That being said, it does not preclude us from making an attempt for a motor vehicle stop, even if it is something that's not serious. So we have done some education in-house with our people to make sure they understand that. So last year we had, and I think I might be off by a number or two, so I'm going from the top of my head, about 116 incidents or situations when our officers attempted to conduct a motor vehicle stop and the vehicle did not stop. It just took off. But it doesn't mean there was a pursuit. This means the officer turned on the lights, the individual chose not to stop, and then the officer, what we call, shuts it down, turns off the lights and sirens, and then pulls their vehicle over. That's 2023. In 2024, I think it was 212 incidents in which our officers attempted to conduct a motor vehicle stop, and the individuals inside the vehicle did not stop and fled the area. So you say, well, what's the cause of that? Is it an increase in people, fleeing and not obeying the laws, or it's probably a combination of that and the fact that we are being more targeted and more proactive in trying to conduct these stops. So it's a combination of multiple factors.
Thank you, Chief Riddick, for providing that clarification. I think that's important to hear and learn. All right. If there aren't any other comments or questions, we can move to future agenda items. Do we have any that we would like to bring up, raise for the next meeting?
I do, Madam Chair, and we'll see how this goes. We had a Conard High School student, a young man who did a presentation for the police command staff. He wants to advocate for bringing back the police cadet program. He did a wonderful job. He came, the two assistant chiefs were there, a couple of our captains, and yours truly. And we'd like to provide him the opportunity to provide his presentation to the Public Safety Committee, maybe in February. We gave him he's got to condense it. It was a little long, but he really did a great job. I think you're going to be very proud to see the product that our public schools here in West Hartford produced. For a freshman, and Chief Rickabod and Chief Tara, please chime in. It was phenomenal. Like, I could not believe I was looking at a freshman. And I think, as many of you know, I'm an adjunct instructor at the University of New Haven, and he did a lot better than some of the college kids. And I'm not overhyping it. It was it was really impressive. So, with your permission, we'll go to the proper channels to get that on the agenda. I do look forward to his presentation and sharing that with you.
Absolutely. That sounds exciting. Thank you. All right. If there isn't anything else, I think we can adjourn. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Thank you. We're now adjourned. It's 8:40. Thank you all again. Happy New Year. Stay safe out there and watch each other's back. And let's just keep West Hartford safe and thriving. Thank you all. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
everyone.
Thank you.